The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Welcome back to NiagaraStuff. In this episode, we have a buddy of mine, neighborhood favorite, president of the USA Niagara Corporation, Anthony Vilardo. How's it going, buddy?
It's great to be here, pal. Thanks
Nice
for having me. I'm excited to be. I think this is the first time I've ever done a podcast, so
Perfect. Awesome.
listen to enough of them, so hopefully I don't make too much of
This is my fifth.
mess of it.
So
there we go.
We're beginners, finding our way. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. This
how's
is a
things
great
going?
spot. Things are great.
Busy.
Things are great.
Things sound busy, right?
Things are very busy. You know, kids are busy. Work is busy. So it's busy time of year. Football season, which is always fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, best time of year.
It's my favorite time of the year.
Me too.
You know, from the middle of September to like Thanksgiving is just just love the weather and everything that comes along with it.
Holiday kickoff, so now we've begun.
We've begun.
Football's in prime. We still got squashes and gourds and things. But how was your Halloween?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. You know, this was the first year our older daughter didn't trick or treat with us.
How old?
13, 8th grader. So she went
Too cool.
A little too cool. She wanted to go
Right.
with her friends, so
Yeah.
she went with her friends.
Oh,
and
bittersweet though.
A little
right?
bittersweet. Well, it was
Yeah.
funny. Like last year, we almost felt bad that she was still with us. So
Right.
even though she went on her own this year, it was good. Watch her spread her
Yeah.
wings a little bit, and she's got good friends. So
13,
that's
and
good.
the little one is not little, right?
Not
She's
little anymore. She'll be
8,
12.
12.
12.
Wow, I think
Back when she used to try giving you poison apples back
poison
in the day.
apples. Right. That was Small Business Saturday.
Small Business Saturday,
Yeah.
which is coming up pretty soon.
Right. And any plans for a Small Business Saturday?
Yeah, Small Business Saturday, kind of be bopping around and trying to support as many, local
Yeah.
businesses as we can on Small Business Saturday. The role I'm in now is a little bit different than the role I had with the city, where kind of coordinated that event, in conjunction with
Right.
yourself and South Picarillo and whatnot. But so now it's more on the, I'm the customer now, and where can we go to support, small business holiday gifts.
Yeah, it's become a cool little pseudo holiday of sorts.
It's great, right?
Yeah.
Small businesses are the backbone of not just our city, but the region and the country, and the more we can support small businesses, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, that was my, like I've said in the past podcast, my goal of this podcast, if there is a goal other than just shooting the shit with a buddy, it'd be to support small business. Is going to be the best that I can do just by talking about it, and the people that are running the things and the operators and the organizers. I think that's something you can accomplish with a podcast. So I agree.
That's awesome, and I think everyone should be supporting as many small businesses as possible. Make it a I don't want to say a principle of my personally and our family is. Well, if we can go, if there is a local small business that provides the same thing as a national chain or some multinational conglomerate, well, I'm going to go and see the little guy, right?
Yeah.
You just need a new washer recently. We didn't go to one of the big box stores. We went to Pine Avenue.
I was going to say
George's Appliance.
Yeah,
and
right.
Guess what? We have a new washer.
Yes, I did the same with an oven and microwave.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It makes you feel good when you can help.
Absolutely,
help your
right?
neighbor out, or help the local guy out.
I always try to tell my kids or whatnot. It's like we go and support the local businesses because even from a selfish standpoint, even it's if they go out of business and they're not paying property taxes anymore, guess what? That's not good for us. And so you try to circulate as much money in your local economy as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you can't buy everything local sometimes, but anytime
that's
you
when
can.
Amazon comes in, when you need a little one certain thing that you're not going to find locally. You'll get it tomorrow if you hop on Amazon and whatever,
you need some batteries or something.
I know they're that's butting heads with the local entrepreneurs, but sometimes you have no choice.
You don't have a choice sometimes, but when you have that choice, always try to make that small business choice.
So Small Business Saturday would be the book corner. That was always
that's a great spot. You got to get some books,
the
there.
Makers Market.
Makers Market will be good. It's going to be at the convention center again this year. I think they're doing 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days.
This year, which will be great. Always a lot of cool stuff there, and I think when you do things like the Makers Market, it shows a little more thought, and a gift that you're trying to give to someone because you're walking and you're like
handcrafted and it's
like I saw this and I thought of you, and here it is for you. So
yeah, that's good. And that time of the year is starting to roll up now.
Yeah.
So we'll be having cranberries and turkey soon, and good football coming up.
Always good football coming up.
You said you went to the last Bills game.
Yeah. I took our younger daughter on Sunday to watch the Bills squish the fish. So
and your horse.
That was fun. A little hoarse, so I apologize, to the people out there, listening to my voice, which is already terrible to begin with, but it's even a little worse today.
We were talking before we came on about listening to your own voice on recordings, which is the worst.
Yeah, so I won't. The only time I hear any of this will be right now, because this will not be.
I have to subject myself to it when I'm doing editing with Rich and getting them published and things, but I can't stand it, and especially like even seeing myself on video too. That's another thing that
no,
my head is big enough in real life, and the camera adds 10 pounds, so my dome is like a hot air balloon.
Yours and mine both. Rich probably can't put us in the same shot because it wouldn't fit on the camera.
Yeah, you got to do the panoramic. Start from over there and slowly pan. That's funny. But yeah, man. So good catching up with you.
Yeah,
and you're a DeVoe guy.
Born and raised,
right?
Born and raised.
Dipped out, but then came back in.
Yeah, my grandparents moved to DeVoe in 1953, I believe. So our families had a footprint there. My grandmother just passed away in July, so that's okay. It was a great run, right? Someone that's 95 years old.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. It's
amazing.
Hey,
congrats
that's
to her.
awesome, and I'm just shy of 95. Should have been 95 in September, but
90 and up. Congrats.
Yes, exactly.
You
right,
you did it. You won. Right.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for, right? And she was still drinking her Manhattans and all that jazz. So
And most elderly people at that age start telling you, "I'm ready." Yeah, I'm done. That's how my grandfather was. I'm done.
She had been by herself. My grandfather passed away in 2009, so she had been alone for almost 15 years, and it's like, ready to go. And it was
in DeVoe, they lived in DeVoe.
She lived in the same house on Seymour Avenue from 1953 until 2024. So
great.
Yeah, my mom's there, and we're there, and so I tell our kids, you guys are fourth generation in this neighborhood, and so you can't go anywhere and not expect to know anything. And that's probably my favorite part of that neighborhood is, having friends who I grew up with in the neighborhood, and, their parents happen to grow up in that same neighborhood. I mean, we would go to each other's grandparents' houses, and now
the kids are trick-or-treating at your house.
And a lot of them have stayed in the neighborhood or left for a couple of years and have come back and bought houses there. So it's really great. There's just such a sense of community for me that, I don't know, I think it's the best neighborhood in the world. But
that's awesome. It's
what I've really known for the majority of my life.
Flag there.
Yeah.
So. What high school did you go to?
I went to the old Niagara Falls High School. I'm a Power Cat Pride. I know
cool.
you wore the brown and gold, and I won't hold that against you.
Next subject. I don't even know. I don't even remember. It was even all the time, right? I mean, the football, was it, you guys kicked their ass all the time?
No, not in football, but.
Oh, I'm saying football. Basketball. I'm thinking football in my head, yeah.
We were there, through the drought, which was almost worse than that. It might have been, it was 15, 16 years, or it was 84 to 2000, I think.
Whose drought?
Niagara Falls did not be. Well, it also hurt that we never had a home game, in that, right? Our home games were at LaSalle.
Yeah.
So that didn't really help.
Right.
When I was at JV 10th grade, we beat LaSalle, and then we had a kid who was there, and he moved to somewhere down South Alabama, maybe. And it was like, couldn't do it. But the year after I graduated, Joe Kasha hit the shot at the convention center the last game.
Oh, cool.
That was the coolest. I don't know. To me, it was like I came home from college, to see the last game.
Yeah, that's
I still have the ticket stub somewhere, in a box in the basement, some other cool memorabilia.
I got the same. I had the flag football flag from our junior, senior flag football. Why? Yeah, I don't know. So I look at it and go, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Put it in a box with the other shit.
Right. And someday, when I have a real man cave, I'll have it out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the classes did a fundraiser recently, one of the old classes for maybe reading or something. They were selling some Power Cat gear. So got a hoodie and a T-shirt that, I wore the hoodie on Saturday. So
cool. Yeah. I rock the LaSalle stuff every once in a while.
Well, and it's funny because now, our daughters are playing soccer on a team that's kind of regional, right? So only kids from Niagara Falls are R2, and there's no kid on the team goes to the same school as another kid type of a thing, right? They're from all over Western New York, and they have girls that come from Erie, Pennsylvania, and as far away as Oakville into Ontario and Rochester. But now, their parents and stuff will know, it's Niagara Falls Wolverines, and it's blue and gold, and I had on a red and gray Power, and I saw a couple of looks like, what the heck is that? And
Yeah,
I was
right.
like,
Throwback.
It's a throwback. It's retro.
Yeah, I love seeing that stuff though.
I do
if
too.
I'm out somewhere and it catches your eye. I even see those trot T-shirts. Remember when we had them at the hub? The trot, Power Cat, Niagara Falls ones. Every once in a while, I catch one of those.
You catch
like,
one.
Oh,
yeah.
hey, that's
I
cool,
still
man.
have the Power Cat shirt you gave me.
Cool.
Was it about 10 years ago now that those were circulating
Can
around?
you believe that? 10 years ago?
Gosh,
Yeah.
time flies.
When did Walenda walk? Is it 2016 or 17?
No. I moved back home in 15 and it had already happened. So
Oh, really?
I want to say it was like
shit.
2012 or 13
Really?
maybe. Yeah.
Oh my god. Time flies.
It really does.
That was
remember,
a cool weekend.
Yeah, we were living in Syracuse at the time. I remember watching it on ABC.
Yeah.
It was live, and I was like, "Oh man, I wish I was home for
Right.
to be there."
I know.
To see
I
it.
remember we were scorned because we had a little party at the Niagara Hub parking lot, thinking that it was 100,000 people were going to be roaming the streets on 3rd Street. Well, I think that they got a little scared about parking, and everybody could watch it from home. And so
people
why
just-
fight the crowd and that? So
you could watch
locals,
it from home.
all the locals were having house parties and like watching a football game.
Yeah.
They weren't going to the game; they were watching it from and so. People could pull right up in front of the hub if they wanted to. We were thinking they're gonna have to park at City Hall and walk down. No, but it was fun. It was a good. It was
It was almost similar to the eclipse this year, right? I think the eclipse, was negatively impacted by the
Hype?
Well, no, not the hype. The overcast skies that day.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, they were
that
projecting.
sucked. It was still awesome, but that was a.
So we were going to go down to Goat Island to check it out, and we actually rode our bikes because we were so concerned about parking. And our office is in the Giacomo, so I was like, all right, we'll ride our bikes there, put them in my office. They'll be safe, and then we'll walk down to Goat Island. And we're riding downtown. It was like there's some people down there, but it wasn't the huge crowd that I think they expected. And talking, to some hoteliers and some, other locals that are working down in the hospitality industry, they were seeing people were following the weather forecast, and the weather in Cleveland was going to be better. And so, if you remember that day, Cleveland had clear skies, and it cleared up here just after.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people
I knew people that did drive to a certain. Somebody got a call, and it was clear somewhere local, but not here.
No, I'm going to go to Dunkirk and watch it.
Right.
Right, because it was moving. The clouds were moving
45
from
minutes, so
southwest
they
to
could catch
northeast.
it, whatever. But it was still cool.
Yeah, no,
Man,
it was
it was creepy too, like eerie. Everything got quiet, all the crickets and stuff, and everything. It was weird.
I remember
cool.
there was a partial eclipse. I want to say I was in middle school, and we went outside of Gaskell, and we're like,
don't look at it.
We made we made something with like a piece of paper,
Kleenex
or something.
box with a pinhole in it or something, or
Oh
something.
no, it was like a paper towel roll, I think, and we put a piece of paper over the top, and you put it in.
And then you could see it. Yeah,
well, luckily I can still see. So
right, remember the glasses from this year were so black you couldn't see.
You couldn't see anything
unless a car was looking on the street. A car's headlights you could see.
I remember testing them out ahead of time, right? Because you got them, and
these don't work because you can't see shit.
You couldn't see it.
No.
But there was a couple breaks in the clouds that it was like you could look up and see. It's so.
Where I was in Town of Niagara, you couldn't see nothing until it was partial, and maybe a glimpse of a little piece. But
and that's all it was. It was a glimpse here or there, and being down at the falls, the roar of the crowd every time, and it was kind of bizarre too.
Oh yeah.
Because the way the clouds move from west to east. I mean, a split second before we caught it, they could catch on the Canadian side, and you could hear people. I
saw a video. I think of it.
And everyone was all excited about it.
Yeah, people. My friends in Kenmore saw it and said it was beautiful, clear, and that's 10 minutes away.
Yeah,
that's
10 miles as the crow flies type of thing. So
it was cool though.
Got a couple glimpses here and there breaking the cloud, but it was very brief.
How did we get on that? What were you going back to?
I don't know. But that's what this is all about, right? It's a free-flowing conversation.
Yes, absolutely. We can go in all different
You were
directions.
saying how the conversation. You were talking about how the walk over the falls.
Oh, there you go,
Like
Walenda.
Anticipation of
right. Yes, you saw it in middle school, yeah. And I remember partial ones before. And then what was the one a couple years ago? That was a...
Yeah, that was in the summer. I think it was also a partial one. I remember taking the kids to...
Yeah, there was definitely something, because I remember going to central office.
That's where we were there. Central office did something on 66th Street.
I don't even remember what that was.
Yeah,
it was a partial eclipse.
I don't even know.
Must have,
maybe there was a lunar eclipse where the moon moved in front of the sun, or no, that's what just happened. I don't remember. But
I don't know.
A partial, you saw
we'll figure it out. And we'll put something on the screen that explains this to everybody. That's funny.
Bill Nye, the science guy, in here to educate us on this.
4 hours later, and no, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get home tonight and snoring. Be googling this. And I'll text you.
Me too. That's funny. But so catching up on other things, I'm excited to talk to you about projects that are underway, changes that we're going to see. I used to work at Teletech. Great place when it first opened and we started, and that whole concept, it was weird, and we're a customer service giant warehouse basically. It was cool, paid good, and then it just slowly, the 1,000 turned into 500 workers to 200 workers, and now it's gone.
It's gone,
right? And good. That was an ugly building.
It was an ugly building, a vestige of I like to say a misguided urban renewal project.
Let me interrupt. Was it Fall Street Fair before it was Teltec? Because I worked at Fall Street Fair.
So I believe, if memory serves me correct, Fall Street Fair is where the current convention center is.
Okay.
The Teletech building was Fall Street Station. It was the Fall Street Station because the old train station was on the eastern edge of that site, right?
Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the old, I think it was the New York Central Station, came right into downtown, right?
Yeah. I know that there was but I didn't know that it was located on that spot.
Yeah, if you go, there's a couple of really good, Facebook groups that highlight, old photos and stuff.
Pictures. That's all. We'll find
and there's
it
some there.
The New York Central?
I think it was the New York Central Station is what was there.
Spot.
On a little bit closer to where the Sheridan is today.
Cool. I didn't think that. I thought it was further down.
I think the front door, I believe, was second in Falls, which no longer exists, right?
Yeah.
So urban renewal wiped out Second Street, basically, right? You can access it a little bit between the Cadence Hotel and St. Peter's Episcopal, and that stops. Because we wiped an entire street. And that's not the only one. You had Outplace, Cherry Street, Thomas Street, wiped off the map. Erie Avenue, gone. I mean, most of Erie Avenue is kind of the alignment of the current Rainbow Boulevard.
That little patch of Second Street's my stealth parking spot. Anytime you had to go to the Giacomo or the conference center.
Yeah, you go back there.
Yeah, that street was always open for parking.
Always open. You can always find a spot on side. Well, now,
now
all the thousands of people that are listening to us are going to be parking on Second Street. But so that was a vestige of urban renewal.
Right.
Our agency, USA Niagara, acquired it in 2019. So in 2018, the former governor announced an undisclosed sum of money for our agency to acquire long dormant parcels near the Niagara Falls State Park. My predecessor is a good friend, Chris Shefflin, cut a deal with Joe Anderson to acquire his holdings in the downtown core. I think it was 34 individual parcels. And really it ends up being about 5 development sites. So currently we're going through a process of, how do we dispose of these in a manner to create the most economic development for downtown Niagara Falls. Not to say that anything good came out of the pandemic, but it did allow us some time to do a proper strategy for this. So we brought in a firm out of New York City called POW, Practice for Architecture and Urbanism, a very forward-thinking architectural firm with a really good background in urban planning, really creative. We did a really robust stakeholder outreach. Talk to residents, talk to local business owners, elected officials, planners. We brought in a firm, Forsyth Street, who specializes in financial modeling. So, as you have these development sites, what can you reasonably expect to see on these sites? What are their, they ran pro formas for all a host of different scenarios. Here's a high scenario, here's a mid scenario, here's a low scenario. It really gave us a lot of information as to how we should go about trying to get these properties redeveloped.
How long was this study for?
We started just before the pandemic. We actually had 2 quote-unquote pop-up sessions. One was at Power City Eatery on 3rd Street. The other one was in the NAC on Pine Avenue. And, they would sit there and, hey, you mind talking to us for a second? Right. What do you think this area needs?
Public invited.
Oh, yeah, public invited. We also did, an online survey. I think we had over 1,400 people respond to that. and it helped inform us and, what's the market out there. We talked with developers, on a regional and local level. What do you think? And just really put together
did your due diligence, right? I mean,
we did, right? Yeah. And the other thing, because we weren't really sure, if you acquire this much land, right, what's the best way to go about getting it developed? One of the things we looked at was the phasing of it, right? Do you go to the market all at once with all these sites? And what came back was, no, that might not be the best approach for this.
Trickle it.
So, exactly. And, so if you're in a tricklet, okay, where do you start? And what came out of that was it made a lot of sense to start on Old Falls Street.
Closest to the source.
Closest to
people.
Where the people are, right?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I say it so someone may be able to prove me wrong. But I would be willing to bet that might be the most heavily traversed pedestrian street in Western New York. Those 3 blocks from the front entrance to the state park to the Seneca Niagara Casino between Prospect and 3rd Street. The hundreds of thousands of people.
In July, in the span, or you're saying
I'm just saying throughout the entire year, right? The sheer totality of people that are there. I mean, driving to work this morning at 7:30, there's still people walking up and down that street.
And now tourism, like we had talked about on the last episode, is pouring into the frozen months. When there is a foot of snow, the more snow, the better. They're coming to see that now, which wasn't a big deal. I don't remember that ever being.
I don't ever remember it being a big deal, right? And it used to be your
get
tourism,
away from it.
right? Your tourism season used to be Memorial Day to Labor Day, and that was it.
Yeah.
And we've started to see that what they call the shoulder seasons in that industry.
Right.
Your September, October, November, your May, April, March, going away from those, has picked up, and you look at hotel numbers and things like that. That's really proving out that that's the case. But even still, right? Like you get some cool, opportunities to see a Frozen Falls, even though we know it doesn't really,
right? But
freeze, but it gives the illusion of being
when
frozen.
Everything else is frozen. Yeah, it was minus 14 or minus 10, whatever it was, a few years back.
Yeah,
for a week
and you have
straight.
the wind that blows really, quickly
I
from
love
the west.
it. I love it when it's like that.
Yeah,
I mean, people
it's
hate
really
it, but
cool.
I love it when it's like that.
It gives you a different perspective on our own backyard.
That's why I live here. I like the change of seasons, and I lived in Arizona for a brief stint, and it was during Halloween, going into Thanksgiving, into Christmas, and Halloween. It was so weird walking down the street, and it was 85 and sunny, and there's no crispy leaves on the ground. Cactus and
one of the most surreal things I've done is we've gone to Florida twice on like Christmas. So hey girls, Christmas morning, wrap up some airplane tickets for them. Nice. And like, we're going to Florida today. We had the bags packed and we were ready to go. But you get off a plane in the evening and you're walking to your, one time we stayed at a friend's house, and the other time we were in Airbnb, so you're walking through like a neighborhood and it's like, there's Christmas lights up, but I'm in shorts and a t-shirt and it's 75 degrees
in July
at 8 o'clock, right? And it's different, but it doesn't give you that, the full effect of 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's an excellent time of year. As like we were saying, right now from until January 1st, for me personally, after January 1st, all right, I'm done.
I agree. I will take it until, January 2nd
the
or 1st,
holidays
whatever
are
it is.
over, and I'm done.
And I'm ready for the sun to come back out, and, to be light past 4:45.
Spring is like slush and gray, and I'll skip over that.
Yeah, then when you get some of those days though in May, and the flowers are starting to bud, and you get
people
that
start golfing and washing their cars, and
there's a smell to that springtime too that
it's awesome.
Can be nostalgic for like Little League opening days and stuff.
It's worth coming to Niagara Falls to check out.
Absolutely,
right? Smell the air.
Any time of year is a great time to visit.
Yeah, I said smell the air, and then I thought, wait a minute, certain parts.
It depends where you are.
If
you're near Seacoast or
don't
the
smell the air.
treatment,
Just gun it.
Maybe not.
Do about 90 down the expressway. There, So and so you've done the due diligence, everything. The studies are done. A decision or decisions have been made, and what are those?
We've RFP'd a couple of the sites, so if you want, I can walk you through them. What we
whatever
acquired.
You wanna, whatever you want to broadcast or let people know about.
I mean, it's all on our website and whatnot.
And we have some pictures to put up too.
There's so really we had these 34-ish properties plus or minus a couple, and they're not really 34 developable sites, right? They become you amalgamate them and they become really 5 to 6 development sites. And we've numbered them and gave them names and all that fun stuff. We did an RFP for a stretch of 2nd Street, where the new state, well, new now, it's probably 10, 15 years old now, the State Police Park Barracks are on that stretch of 2nd Street, which at one point connected to Whirlpool Street, kind of over there by the aquarium. When the Parkway was removed, that stretch from Main Street to Finley Drive, roads got a little bit rerouted. We offered an RFP for that last year, I believe it was, and the aquarium is planning to do like about a $20 million expansion to expand their campus. Right, they just opened up a foothold at the old Gorge Discovery Center, the Sholkoff Gorge Discovery Center inside the state park. Great Lakes 360. It's great exhibits, and it will help extend their visitors' time there. Right, so the more they have to offer, the more visitors they can draw. And the more visitors they draw, it's better for the small business community, right? You go there and
go to lunch. Or,
you're going to go to lunch and, where you're going to go. Or you go in the afternoon, go grab a dinner on 3rd Street or go grab lunch on 3rd. So they're in the process of planning that out in greater detail, right? So, they'll, have access to that site. The next site is located, it was the Roadway Motel there. We raised that in 2020. It was in rough shape when we had acquired it. And that is next to what was DeFranco Park, which we'll now be calling Gorge Gateway Park. So we are about to commence some construction as part of something called the Niagara Falls Heritage Gateways. And this came out of that planning exercise that we did. And one of the things that we, learned was, we are not going to have all these sites developed tomorrow, right? If I can implore anything to, even my mom and dad when he was around would be like, well, why is this moving faster, right? And it's like, well, these things take time, right? It's, you have to go and get financing. You have to go, if you're a hotel, you need a flag. And, all these things take time. There's a million different things that go into everything. And so we are creating a series of public sector improvements that help tell the story of Niagara Falls. So across the street from that, which is the block bounded by 1st, 2nd, Main, and Niagara Streets, Joe tried to run a outdoor snow hill type thing, all around. That is the alignment of the old hydraulic canal, which ran from the upper river to the lower river, which fed the Sholkoff Power Plant, which collapsed in the gorge in 1956, which necessitated the building of the new power plant just north of Niagara University there. So we're going to be able to tell that story to the world of, if you're a family from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, why was Niagara Falls developed? Why is it important, other than the fact that we have some water falling over rocks that people like to look at? And a lot of that is power and industry. So we have we've awarded a construction contract to Scott Lawn Yard, who's a local company, and they'll be constructing a plaza on the alignment of the old canal. It'll have some misting fountains and something we're calling a power promenade, which will have catenary lighting that kind of emulates the old power lines that ran from the Sholkoff Power Station and fed, Niagara Falls and Buffalo and a lot of the Northeast.
And that patch is when you're leaving the falls area, you've gone to the waterfalls, and now you're leaving, and you're coming up towards 3rd Street and Main and Whirlpool. Yep. To the right, you would have hit what was that called? Icicle or
the Misty Dog.
Yeah, and the bar Ice House.
Oh, the Ice House. Yeah.
To the right here.
Yep.
Over here is apartments and the Bank of America.
Closer to that kind of kitty corner from the old Howard Johnson's, right across the street from the Wyndham Garden Inn, which was a Days Inn or a Schraff's Motor lodge, way back, when. So we'll be constructing that, and then we'll be offering the parcels around it on that block for development through a competitive process. So it's the first 3 sites. The 4th site, which actually ended up being the first one that we RFP'd, was the old Teletech building. So if anyone's been downtown lately, they will notice that building is no longer there. Yeah. And it's pretty cool to see the First Presbyterian Church
standing by itself again.
By itself.
Right. That was a weird a weird construction.
It was so weird. That building, I don't know if people really realized it. It was one building that made a big U around this church. This poor church.
Stucco.
Yeah.
Right? That pink stucco.
Awful.
Oh, God.
So it's raised, and we are currently working with two separate. That was one thing that we required in our request for proposals was it can't be one building. One developer could have been awarded both sides of that church, but you couldn't encase the church again like it was. So we're working with two development teams on the north side of the church, so the side closest to Niagara Street. Working with a team led by Edgemere out of Rochester, who's done a number of housing projects. It'll be a 73-unit, 6-story multifamily building, 1 to 2 bedroom apartments. We'll go in there, little ground floor office space. And the south side of the church, we're working with a development team on a 7-story hotel, ground floor retail, and 10 apartments on the 7th floor for there. So I think those will add a lot of density, to downtown. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we heard, when we were doing this development strategy, and we've heard even prior to that from, trying to attract businesses downtown, are, that notion of I can make a lot of money in June, July, and August, but right there,
right.
Any healthy city you go to, any healthy village, I don't care where you are, has people living in their downtown, right? And so that is a real big focus for us.
There's nobody in that area living, really. There's the odd houses that still exist.
Yeah, you have a few houses here and there. You have the Parkway,
Whirlpool.
The Giacomo has, some apartments in it. The Jefferson does. But we've also seen a real nice proliferation of upper story apartments along Niagara and 3rd Street. I should know this number. I want to say it's been about 85 have been renovated to a market standard, which is pretty cool. And I think adding, 73 more. Now, those are 73 apartments that will be filled with people that can go to a small business and have dinner.
Daily.
They can, they can grab a drink for, after work.
Yeah.
They, are going to have to find a dry cleaner or a pharmacy. All those things that make communities are really important, and you can't have those if you don't have people living in your downtown area.
And that's where a lot of the criticism, or if there is criticism, comes from the fact that you're putting people on those streets or that area that's normally not, it's not housed that way. So everybody instantly thinks low-income housing, people grouped in and, a family of 10 in a 2-bedroom apartment.
No.
And that's what, but
Yeah, no,
it's a bad philosophy or way of thinking, but that's what pops in your head when you've been in Niagara Falls for 95 years or 90 years.
And, we've heard that, and I think there is a misconception out there amongst the public of, what is going to be, to be built there. These are apartments that will rent from $1,000 to $1,400 a month for the 2 bedrooms, which is right in line.
I was going to say, is that market
that is,
rate? Yeah.
For Niagara Falls, that is market rate, right? I mean, you go to Buffalo might be a little more, but if you go to New York City or Toronto or, these other places, right, that's not the same thing. But if you go to any of those apartments that have been renovated along 3rd Street, Niagara Street, or any of the other places in the immediate downtown, and, I'm not as versed on what the rents are outside of the immediate downtown core, a 2-bedroom on 3rd Street is likely going to be right or plus or minus $1,400. A 1-bedroom is going to be plus or minus $1,000. So it's right in line with
see that when
market standards.
On Marketplace or Facebook or wherever advertising, it's usually $1,200 on 3rd Street, $1,200 to $1,400 for
and that's exactly
2-bedroom.
They're right in line with that.
Every time I read, I go, "Holy shit, that's what it's at now."
Yeah, and
that's a mortgage, but people prefer that lifestyle.
And they've seen the need for it with folks working within the hospitality industry, right? So if you are a dealer at the casino or a pit boss or someone working in F&B at a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, this is a good spot for you, right? You're close. I mean, think about what we did when we removed the Parkway, right? We've opened up what might be the world's greatest waterfront for the first time in 2 to 3 generations.
Yeah.
And now it's a place you can walk to, right? You can walk to 3rd Street and check out some of the bars and restaurants on 3rd Street, and you can check out the places on Old Falls Street.
The opportunity exists where it didn't before.
Exactly.
Or it looked, you may not want to walk around here. Now it's well lit. It's manicured, maybe manicured's a strong word, but it's trimmed and kept.
Right? You talk about safety, right? People are safe when other people are around, right?
Yeah.
Crime kind of hides in darkness and lurks in the shadows. Right. And, if you got 100 people living in a building now, it's like, oh, maybe I don't want to, break into that car, in the parking lot down below because there's 35 windows looking into that parking lot.
Right. There's eyeballs everywhere.
There's eyeballs everywhere.
Security
you have people walking around, right? And it's now I'm not going to be the only person walking down this block because there's people coming in and out. So
it was odd to see people walking down those when we had, when we were hanging down on 3rd Street or we had the bar for that brief area. It's like you see someone walking and you're like, why is someone walking down here? Like it's an odd down 2nd Street, at 10 o'clock at night. Where it should be the north on 3rd Street.
It should be the norm,
lights,
right?
and you should be walking around and enjoying,
absolutely
social activities and things. But and so now that will lead to the next. All these are all part of the heritage.
Yeah, well, the heritage gateways are specifically we're going to make some in conjunction with the city, make some improvements to DeFranco Park. The mayor and his team have expressed an interest to have a venue where you could maybe do some outdoor concerts or activities. So we're going to construct on DeFranco Park a multi-use pavilion with the intention being that if there's not something programmed there, you might still want to sit under there and have a picnic lunch or something like that.
Where is DeFranco Park exactly?
So it is on Main Street between 2nd and Discovery Way. Discovery Way would have been the old southbound exit of the parkway onto Main.
Down a little, right?
Right by First, basically.
Okay.
So DeFranco Park, I'll never forget. I worked for the city recreation department in the late 90s, mid 90s, whatever it was. But I had Gerald Park over on between Gerald and North and 32nd. And I had...
That's what that's called?
It was called Gerald Park.
Okay.
And we had dozens of kids a day. And my buddy Murph had DeFranco Park, and he had like 2 kids the entire summer.
Yeah, I never even knew it existed till I was
an
adult.
Was a asphalt with the old like 70s.
Yeah.
It was left over actually. The Power Authority donated it to the city.
It was nice at one time, right? And
it was brand new and never got used. And he would say things like, "I'm bored out of my mind." I was like, "I'll gladly trade parks with you because I got kids climbing on me, and we're doing this and that." And, I don't know if you remember, City Rec used to have like the Quanah softball program, and we had to go to 91st Street Park and Caraval and all these other things. Visit them. And he didn't have enough kids to put together a team, and it was like so. I
remember driving around that, and the grass was that high.
I'm not sure who had the easier job, the guy that had one kid or
in the 2000s. I think,
right? And then it got overgrown and
busted up. And
when the parkway removal started, it became kind of a staging area, and then now it's just grass. So we'll make some improvements there. That is part of the Heritage Gateways, along with the interpretation of the canal. And then so sites one is 2nd Street, site 2 is adjacent to DeFranco Park, 3 would be the Canal Park site, 4 is the former Teletech, which we call the old Fall Street site, and then 5 is 2 separate parcels, 101 Buffalo Avenue, which is directly adjacent to the vehicular bridge going onto Goat Island.
Okay.
There's a Pomeroy historical marker there. I think Judge Porter's house, first house in Niagara Falls. Right. So kind of across from the Holiday Inn, on Buffalo Avenue, and then 305 Buffalo Avenue, which is just next to the Parkway condominiums.
Okay.
In 2021, I believe it was, we opened up a staircase. So we put a path in. Yeah. It was a private residence,
Right.
Judge Koshin, who was a Niagara Falls City Court judge, that was her home. And later the house that unfortunately that was there was razed, and so it was a vacant parcel. We acquired that, and we put in pedestrian access so you could get from 3rd Street at Buffalo Avenue to the water's edge.
Yeah, I remember that. I totally forgot about that too.
Yeah,
that was nice.
So we put that in, and then we're also working there on we're calling it a tree walk, basically a deck that would cantilever out about 75 feet to give you some different vantage points at the eastern end of Rhode Island, the Upper Rapids. So we think that could be pretty cool as part of the gateways. But they are interim interventions while we're working on long-term development on those sites. But they're interventions that will last, through time, right? Yeah. So the Canal Park Plaza, for example, I hate the analogy of Canal Side, but it's not, an apples-to-apples comparison, but similar to that, where the state came in, they made the improvements to canal side, and then the development followed around it. So we're kind of following that similar playbook of we're going to go in, we're going to make a really cool public space, and then work with
where people
private
are already
developers.
walking and trying to find something to do or a place to sit down.
Well, think about this, right?
Relax.
So you're coming to Niagara Falls for the water, right? And there's no place to actually touch water. So with a misting fountain, you could see a toddler in there, splashing around a little bit. So we think that'll be a drive. The other thing it can do is the one thing we always hear is it seems like there's a dividing wall between the state park and the city, right? So trying to make that pervious, right? So you can it should be seamless, right?
Yes.
You shouldn't know whether you're in a park or in the city. So that'll help be like a tongue of the state park that, kind of protrudes into the city, give you that look and feel. So if you are checking out the Sholkoff ruins, right, you can take the elevator down there now, you come out and it's right there. Yeah. So kind of, take you through that.
In it. They're around. There's things around you.
There's things around you. So it kind of naturally pulls you in. We'll also do some curation, work with the National Heritage Area to curate these sites with markers that help tell that story. So
great.
Yeah.
Good. That's a lot right there.
It's a lot.
And is there a time frame from start to completion
for the construction?
Yeah. I mean, overall, that whole plan right now, if we could, snap your fingers and have it done all at once, it would be completed at.
Yeah, so the construction for this phase of the gateways should last probably through next summer. They're starting, we're hoping for a construction trailer on site the next couple of weeks. They've, gone out. We've got the dig 811, so the guys have gone out and marked out the utilities, applying for all the right permits, all that right now. Our contract, when you do business with the state, is
ducks in line. Or
it's not easy, right? We require a lot, right? So they're submitting their insurance binders, and that goes through a million people in our New York City office.
Fun stuff, right?
All that stuff that
I'm sure you love it.
Why does stuff take so long? Well, it's because
just wads of red tape that you hand to the next guy, and they hand it to the next guy.
Right. So someone's got to look at checking the box. Are they properly insured? Because if they're not, then that becomes an issue. So so that portion should take place probably through next summer, on that construction. We'll issue a request for proposal in the next couple months, hopefully, to try to, start the process of developing the land around it in conjunction with it. But like one step at a time, right? We'll go in, we'll plant our flag with the public infrastructure, and then look for the private sector to follow us.
Great. Things to look forward to. Thank you so much for stopping by. So we can consider this one visit of many.
Okay.
Because there is more that you have to tell the public and let everybody know about, but there's some things that are down the road.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I'm always able to come by. Just let me know.
Cool. Thank you very much for coming by.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.